Hello everybody and welcome back to Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing and welcome back to the PASR MX-5 Cup. You join myself, Jack Werrell, in the commentary box to run you through all of the action here this evening. We've got Tom O'Farrell from 2F Media Productions, as always, doing a brilliant job as the broadcast director, bringing us the beautiful images you can see on screen at the moment. And the series organiser, of course, Mick Sutton behind everything at PASR. And I've got to say, welcome to North of the Border. Of course, we are here for round number 2 at Knockhill. We kicked off this season's action just a week ago on the national layout of the Donington Park circuit. It was quite a busy round for some and quite a quiet round for others. So, of course, here 15th of February for round 2 at Knockhill. In a week's time, we go back down south just towards Darlington, the 22nd of February for round number 3 at Croft. Then even further south on the 29th of February for round number 4 at Castle Coombe. Back up to Cheshire on the 7th of March for round number 5, Alton Park on the island layout. And then where it seems fairly apt to end a series, round number 6 on the 14th of March, the season finale on Brands Hatch, the GP layout as well, a very quick circuit, some quite challenging corners and lots of undulation change as well. In terms of what the drivers are fighting for, of course, points mean prizes, but also racing. Finishing well in a race gets you all of those points, but finishing well in a race also gets you a prize. If you win a race, you get £5. If you finish second, you get £5. And if you finish third, funnily enough, you get £5. So finishing on the podium can be quite profitable from start to end of the season. If you manage to keep that up throughout the season, come season's end, Brands Hatch GP, once we have confirmation of results, if you win the championship, you get £60 in cash. If you finish second, you get £40. Third, you get £20 in cash. So there's plenty of financial sort of motivation for the drivers out there, and if you can get yourself some good points on the board early, you stand yourself in fairly good stead come the end of the season to get yourself on a little bit of cash. In terms of those points, how are we looking coming into the second round? Nathan Williams, of course, winning at round 1. He put it on pole and he got fastest lap, scoring max points, 30 points. Race 2, he went fairly well as well, managing to bag 24 points there. We did see Jordan Taylor have a poor start to the season. However, race number 2 really swung his way. He managed to pick up the win in race number 2 with a fairly beneficial reverse grid race, meaning that at the top we are tied. Nathan Williams and Kyle Felbus both tied on 56 points. Of course, Nathan Williams having the win, the pole position and the fastest lap, naturally he cedes to the very top. 2 points back we have Leo Bell, 2 points back thereafter we've got Harley Connolly, and then we get back to another tied position, tied for 5th, James Pepper and Stanley Donaldson. Luke Sintler only a point back from there. As you'd expect, you can go on for days about how close the championship is after just one round, but that shows that this season, with it only being a 6-round season, whilst you are allowed 2 drop races, not necessarily a drop round, you might have a poor race 1 here tonight, but win race number 2, you can drop the first race on its own. You don't need to drop the entire round. So with that drop round being taken into effect for the first 5 rounds, you cannot drop either the first or the second race at Brands Hatch. The championship will be closer than ever. We do have qualifying underway at the moment, and it's a fairly familiar name up at the top of the order. Carl Felbus with a 56.144 finds himself on provisional pole by 2/10 of a second over Luke Sintler. Just coming towards the line is Carl Felbus. I don't think we'll see an improvement from him this time round. Riding on board, you can see just the undulation change going down the start-finish straight before you sort of aim for the curve that you hope is still there. Then down the very rapid descent, you can see the car scrambling around for grip through Duffer's Dip. Then hard on the brakes, get the car squared away. It pointed in towards the apex at McIntyre, keeping it within those track limits. The quick right at Butchers, and then you aim for the sky, going skywards as you bounce over the curbs. You try and spend as little time in the air and manage to keep it within the white lines. Kyle Felbus just dipping a toe into the gravel, didn't quite work for him through there. And then another blind uphill right-hander at Clark, very well maintained at the minimum speed by Kyle Felbus through there that time. And it's down Railway Bend. And the longest straight pretty much we've got on this Knockhill circuit before a very, very heavy braking zone through the tight right-hander at Taylor's. And then you are back towards the start-finish line. You've got to be nice and patient on that throttle through the exit. Once again, undulation change slowly starting to play a part with Carl Felbus's lap. It looks very quick on board, but I don't think this time it will be improvement. Somebody that has improved, Luke Sintler, he's got rid of those 2/10 and got it down to 48 thousandths of a second. So a very, very good improvement from Luke Sintler, and he just needs a little bit more to find himself on the pole position. James Pepper, however, a long way back compared to where we saw him a few or just a week ago, pardon me. So he's not going to improve on this lap. He's got over half a second to find if he wants to get on the front row, let alone on provisional pole position. So towards the line he will go. It won't be an improvement from him this time. Maybe that was him finding a bit of space to try and set up for a good lap. Nathan Snaith, he went half a second quicker in the first sector, a second slower in the second sector. So that's a net loss of around about 0.5 of a second. Has he managed to claw anything back in the final half of this lap? Towards the line he will go. Does he cross the line and improve? I think he did last time. Let's have a quick look. A 58.261 posted. So Nathan Snaith, he remains in 11th place, but he has chipped slightly closer to Harry Dias. We've got a few names missing this week, unfortunately. That's due to sort of holidays and other motorsport commitments as well. So it's great to see that some of the youth within the PASR MX-5 Cup are working their way into the various realms of motorsport, whether that be scholarships or test days or whatever that may be. It seems like it's been a fairly busy day inside and outside the PASR MX-5 Cup paddock. Here is Harry Dias. He's improved in Sector 1. He's massively improved in Sector 2. He's currently on a... let's have a quick look. Harry Dias is currently on a 58.113. He's just over a tenth back from Thomas Potter. In provisional 9th place. Towards the line he will go. How far up the top 10 can he rise? Currently sat in 10th place, breaks the beam and only improves to 9th with a 57.770. However, that's got to be a very good motivator for him. He set some very quick sector times. Somebody that's setting even quicker sector times is our provisional pole sitter. Are we going to break into the 55s in qualifying? Kyle Felbus over the line. We just miss out on a 55 by 0.02 of a second. Kyle Felbus over the line once again extends that pole position margin by near enough 0.2 of a second. We do have Kieran Roberts now in provisional 3rd place, so he's worked his way onto the 2nd row of the grid. He's got half a second to find. This lap won't be the one for him. He lost around about a second this lap. James Pepper in response. Is he going to once again get onto the inside of the 2nd row of the grid? He was slightly up in Sector 1. Slightly up in Sector 2 towards the line. Can he get to 3rd? Yes, he can. A 1/4 of a second found in the final sector at Knockhill. As we go through Duffer's Dip up onto 2 wheels, I don't think this lap will be an improvement from him, but that just shows the commitment he's trying to put into finding his way onto the front row of the grid. But a good improvement from James Pepper. That buys himself around about 0.3 of a second margin to the car behind. Stanley Donaldson, pardon me. He's very... he's lost a lot of time in Sector 1, lost a lot of time in Sector 2 as well. I don't know whether that's just trying to find a bit of clear track. He's got Harry Dias up the road. Maybe he tried to let him through, but towards the line he will go on to another flying lap. He's just under a second away from the provisional pole time at the moment. Kyle Felbus with a brief spell in the pit lane. Is he coming back out on some fresh tyres? You should hope so. And Dalton Haywood, he is currently sat behind. A big old moment from Stanley Donaldson. Armfuls of opposite lock. He manages to get the car squared away, bouncing over the curb, and I'm guessing just a slight network issue there for Stanley Donaldson, but over the crest he will go. And potentially onto another improvement this lap. Jordan Taylor, very, very close margins on the exit of the quick right at Clark. Down through the railway bend he will go, and then up to the very heavy braking zone towards Taylor's. On the brakes, down a couple of gears. He's setting up for a quick lap. You can see him taking that very wide line in so he can get on the throttle earlier and almost slingshot his way onto the start-finish straight. So it won't be an improvement from Jordan Taylor this lap. I think this is his out lap, so we may start to see improvements from Jordan Taylor in final 5 minutes of this session. James Pepper, he responded once, he's going to respond again. 38 thousandths up in Sector 1, 55 thousandths up in Sector 2, which posts the all-time best Sector 2 in this session. Will we see him on the front row of the grid? He's got a bit more time to find. Towards the timing line he will go. Yes, we will. Onto the front row of the grid provisionally with a full 10th and 3/4 gain in the final sector. He's still a 10th and a half away from Kyle Felbus's 56.020, but James Pepper is a very quick lap indeed, a 56.175. Is there more left in the bag for him to find? Kyle Felbus can still improve as well. However, half a second down this time from James Pepper. It seems like if you almost superheat the tyres on a flying lap, you've just got to take it easy, get the car cooled down again before you can then re-attack the Knockhill circuit. Jordan Taylor a little further down from where you'd expect him to be. Harley Connolly currently sat in P5. An improvement from Stanley Donaldson as he dives into the pit lane. Once again, Harry Dias remains about where he is. The timing jumbling around. I think that's just drivers heading towards the pit lane. Here is Thomas Potter. He's not far away from an improvement and not far away from the provisional top 10. He's got 15 thousandths to find if he wants to get there. That is not the way to do it off the road. However, clever driving. He kept an eye on his mirror and saw that Jordan Taylor was arriving. Pulled out of the way quite substantially. But heads-up driving from Thomas Potter for sure. I think this may be an outlap as there's no sector times being posted. Dalton Haywood returns from the pit lane. Will we see more of Stanley Donaldson maybe in this qualifying session? Kieran Roberts, he's had a good improvement in Sector 1. What about Sector 2? He'll break the beam in a few moments' time. So he's just shy of a quarter of a second gained through Sector 1. He's got that will, I think, stand him in good stead for dethroning Luke Sintler from Provisional P3. However, he's lost it all in Sector 2 and then sub 8. Best part of 9/10 slower in Sector 2. Who's that going very wide? That's Harley Connolly going on to another flying lap and taking the wide line through Taylor's to slingshot his way on towards the start-finish line. Towards the beam goes Kieran Roberts. I don't think we'll see an improvement from him this time. No, we don't. A 57.279 posted compared to his fastest of a 56.408. Riding on board with Kieran as we go through Duffer's Dip again. You can just see the car trying to break loose as he goes down a gear, maybe locking that rear axle as well. Just with the engine braking, he struggles to get it slowed down. Just about manages it through Sector 1. 3/10 up this time, but he's going to lose it all as he dips his way into the gravel trap on the exit of the chicane. Again, very good on his mirrors, just spots that someone is arriving. That's Kyle Felvis, who screams by. Also coming by will be James Pepper. But Kieran Roberts, it looks so good through Sector 1, but Sector 2 just can't quite get the best of the bunch. Stanley Donaldson, again, just playing around with that timing. He is still in Provisional P7. Kieran Roberts, it seems like that time's there. It's just about stringing the lap together. He's not taking that wide line through the final corner, so maybe that could be the way to do it. With a 3/10 gain through Sector 1, he might have tried that outside line and decided it doesn't really work for him. So over the start-finish line he will go once again with a minute and 50 still to go. Should be able to squeeze a couple of laps out of this one. Into Duffer's Dip we go, riding on board. This time much cleaner, kept it all pointing the right way. On the brakes, down a gear, flicks the car in using that weight change in the car, but immediately pulls over to the right-hand side. Can see that there are cars approaching, the first of those being Nathan Snaith. Harley Connolly through Clark. He is up almost 0.2 of a second in Sector 1. What about Sector 2? He'll break the beam in a couple of moments' time. He's up even more, 0.3 gained in Sector 2. In towards Taylor's. He does have some aerodynamic assistance of the car up the road. That looks like that is Thomas Potter. So through Taylor's he will go towards the start-finish line again, making the most of all of that aerodynamic assistance towards the start-finish line. Will we see an improvement from Harley Connolly? Will he get on the front two rows of the grid towards the start-finish line? No. But a 56.699 posted, a very good improvement and puts him back within touching distance of Kieran Roberts. He's got around about 3/10 to find, but as he keeps chipping away and goes on to what I think will be his penultimate lap of qualifying, Thomas Potter spins through 180 degrees. And I think he might just be able to squeeze another lap out. However, with that mistake, it will be touch and go. Harley Connolly isn't improving through Sector 1. Can he pick up any more time? Of course, he doesn't have that aerodynamic assistance. A big old moment on the exit of Clark. And I don't think that will be an improvement from this lap at all. Thomas Potter backwards again, I fear, on the exit of the chicane. Yes, he is, unfortunately. So he's come to strife on this lap. It's really not helping his qualifying aspirations, and I fear that's all she wrote, and he will finish in 11th place. Just meets the apex at the wrong time as well. That's Luke Sintler going on to another lap. I'd imagine that won't have improved his lap time. No, he's down, 3/10 on this lap, just more than. Kyle Felvis breaks the beam and takes the checkered flag, no improvement. So too does James Pepper. Luke Sintler's aspirations, I feel, will come to an end as well, and he will remain in 3rd place. Kieran Roberts is the only man that can do anything about it, but he's down in Sector 1, down in Sector 2. Harley Connolly is down in all sectors as well. So as far as qualifying goes, the only person to really improve on a sector last lap was Dalton Haywood on his own. But he's already taken the checkered flag with an identical lap time of Stanley Donaldson. However, as Stanley Donaldson set that lap time earlier in the session, he will start in 7th place. Jordan Taylor through the final corner for the final time in qualifying, and he's almost 2/10 down and just weaving his way towards the pit lane. If you are new to the PASR MX-5 Cup, what we do have is this qualifying session prior to 2 20-minute races. The first 20-minute race, naturally the grid is set by qualifying. The second race, it is a full reverse grid, so the finishing order from race 1, get it fully inverted, and that sets the grid for race 2, as long as you take the checkered flag. If you don't take the checkered flag, you have got no choice but start from the back. So that is how qualifying will end, and we will see how all of that will come to play in race number 1. Eyes on for tonight, I would say Kyle Felvis, James Pepper, anybody really inside the top 5, but Jordan Taylor coming off the back of a win, we may see him perform well, not only in race 1, but race 2 as well. But joining us in the commentary box is our pole sitter, Kyle Felvis. Welcome into the PASR commentary box. Knockhill, it's quite the different circuit compared to Donington Park last week. Lots of undulation change. You spent a bit of time off the ground. Is that necessarily the way to go quickly? Because through the chicane, you can quite easily get these MX-5 Cup cars in the air. Do you try and minimise that, or do you try and work it into maybe the line out of the corner? How does it work?
I don't know how it works. Close your eyes and hope. That's how it works. You go through the chicane and it's sort of, you guess where you're going, really. And some laps it will work, some laps it won't, and that's sort of how it's been.
And in terms of sort of confidence going into tonight, it's quite a tricky technical circuit. It is quite a skinny circuit as well, so I'd imagine it's going to be quite busy behind the wheel of your Mazda MX-5. Is that something you're bearing in mind going into it, or is it just sort of full focus, forward, convert pole into a race 1 win and see where that leaves you for race 2?
Yeah, definitely. I think just trying to keep it safe off the first few laps, and then from there the consistency, and hopefully get that win afterwards.
And of course, Donington Park last week, Knockhill this week. We're going to sort of call it early. Obviously, we've still got Croft, Castlecombe, Alton Park, and Brands Hatch on the calendar. Any of those you're looking forward to, or was sort of Donington Park that one that you preferred the most?
I think Brands Hatch will be great. I think Brands is definitely one of my favourite circuits. I mean, Donny is my favourite, but Brands GP is definitely a circuit that I enjoy. So that one's going to be a good round.
Great stuff. Well, hopefully we get another chance to talk to you this evening. Congratulations on pole position in the extra point, and best of luck for race 1 and race number 2.
Thanks, Jack.
Brilliant. Cheers, Kyle. So great to have a chat there with Kyle Felvis, our pole sitter from this evening, with a 56.020, a very quick lap indeed. Still over a tenth and a half clear of James Pepper, which doesn't sound like too much, but over a race that can really add up indeed. The average number of laps posted in that session was floating anywhere sort of between 12 and 14, some opting to do less, whether that's just because they felt they got to the very edge of the limit of the car, or they didn't want to overdrive and sort of introduce some bad habits prior to 40 minutes worth of racing action on the way. The grid will be coming to you very shortly. We've still got around about 2.5 minutes until we see the red lights go on, but you can see a occupied grid here at Knockhill. On pole position on the very left hand side of your screen is Kyle Felvis, and it's James Pepper on the right. Row number 2 on the staggered grid, we have Luke Sintler, followed then by Kieran Roberts. It would be good to keep an eye on the pair of those two. Harley Connolly lines up in 5th. Jordan Taylor for company alongside. The outside for turn number 1. It's going to be quite tricky to try and find the grip around there. Dalton Hayward lines up in 7th place, with car number 21, that being Stanley Donaldson, lining up in 8th. In 9th, we have Nathan Snaith and Harry Dios. Harry seems to have some hot and cold races in the sim at the moment, so hopefully he can convert a good race 1 into an even better race 2. And on his own, on row number 6, we have Thomas Potter, who couldn't quite string the lap together that he wanted in qualifying. One of his sponsors has a Pro cars, of course. These Mazda MX-5s, I'm sure, a very similar driving style to a go-kart. They weigh very little, they've got plenty of power, so the power-to-weight ratio is more than substantial, I would say, especially around a circuit at Knockhill. They've got around about 160 brake horsepower, 200 newton meters of torque, all of that packed into a tight little chassis, with obviously performance suspension and a roll cage that just stiffens it up even more, and they only weigh 900 kilos, so just over, I think, 170 brake horsepower per tonne, which is more than enough for what you'd need to get around Knockhill, this being, of course, the 4th iteration of the Mazda MX-5. But race 1 only, a minute away from getting underway. So now is your time to hedge your bets on who you are going to put the race 1 win towards, even the race podium. Let's go with that. So if you can name that top 3, it would be great to see what... if you're watching along at home, who you think will be on the podium for race number 1, and then more importantly, race number 2 with that full reverse grid. We've seen how quickly that can become a very busy affair for some, and how quickly it can also diminish any aspirations that some of the drivers will have going into race number 2. Of course, if you are looking to get involved, please do head over to www.perfectacceleration.co.uk. We are always looking for more drivers to get on the grid, or send an email to perfectaccelerationuk@gmail.com, and we will be able to find a spot on the grid for you. The lights go on, and very shortly we will be getting this race underway. So 10 seconds until the lights go out. Carl Felvis on the left. The lights go on, so 4, 5, 6 lights here at Knockhill for the first time this evening in the PASR MX-5 Cup. We go racing. It's an okay start from Carl Felvis. James Pepper gets the jump over them both in towards turn 1. Who is going to be best of the bunch? Kyle Felvis seemed to get a very good second phase of the start. James Pepper with a potential missed gear. That means he's going to be elbowed out right the way down to 4th. Can he get the car back on the road? Yes, he can. But Luke Sintler slingshots his way up into 2nd place. Then it is Kieran Roberts, followed then by Harley Connolly. James Pepper's tumbling down the order even more. Into the gravel he will go, and he will find himself right the way down towards the tail end of the order. We've got a car spinning in the middle of the road that looked like Harley Connolly. Nathan Snaith has come to strife as well. James Pepper right the way down in 9th place from the front row of the grid. It's all gone wrong for him in the first race here at Knockhill. Stanley Donaldson up into 4th. Dalton Haywood in 5th. Jordan Taylor, out of all of that, remains in 6th place. So towards Taylor's we will go for the first time. Kyle Felvis already trying to bridge that gap. Jordan Taylor looking up the inside, trying to make his way in towards the top 5. Late on the brakes, grabs the apex. Will he get the run that he wants off the corner? Squeezes Dalton Haywood towards the outside of the circuit, but there it just shows that outside line you can carry that momentum and slingshot your way onto the start-finish straight. Jordan Taylor starts fighting back, squeezing Dalton Haywood towards the pit wall, in towards Duffer's dip. 2 into 1 won't go. Or will it? Because Jordan Taylor holds onto the inside. Whereabouts is Dalton Haywood? There he appears in the rearview mirror. And it's still all go in the background as well. James Pepper is trying to carve his way back up through the order. He's got past Thomas Potter. He's got past Harry Dios. And contact with the tyre bale, unfortunately for Dalton Haywood, maybe slightly unsighted, as he was right tucked underneath the rear bumper of Jordan Taylor. He just connected with that tyre bale, and that spun him through 360 degrees and in towards the gravel trap, and hopefully not in towards retirement with damage on that car. Kyle Felvis still leading the way. He's got half a second between himself and Luke Sintler. Thomas Potter has come to stripe as well, as he finds himself in the tyre wall. So there goes Dalton Haywood. It seems like that car is still tracking straight and true, but Kyle Felvis with that lead at the moment. Luke Sintler is lapping quicker, so we'll have to keep an eye on that lead margin. Kieran Roberts with the fastest lap of the race last time through. Sorry, no, it was Luke Sintler with a 56.443. So we're still a couple of tenths away from what the pole time was, but Kyle Felvis clearly slightly quicker through sector 1. That lead gap up to, 9/10 of a second now, and both of them managed to navigate the tyre bale. A bit of a wobble on the exit from Luke Sintler, but up towards Clark Curve we will go. Once again, looking back from Harry Dios, we can see Harley Connolly still giving chase. The margin's so minuscule, with a lot of oversteer on the exit there from Harley Connolly. Lights ablaze, trying to fill the mirrors of Harry Dios, maybe force that mistake early, still with 17 minutes of the race to go. And you can see him getting closer and closer and closer. A flash of the lights this time just to get Harry Dios thinking that he is going to go for a move. Yes, he is. Harley Connolly dives to the inside, late on the brakes, down a couple of gears, backs the car in. He gets the position immediately as we get to the apex. I was expecting Harry Dios maybe to fight back a little bit more on the exit, but it doesn't quite work. But Carl Felvis still leading the way, almost has broken that draft assistance range, still floating around about 8/9 of a second. Kieran Roberts a long way back, 3.1 seconds between himself and the lead duo. Stanley Donaldson has fallen away a little bit in 4th. Jordan Taylor on his own in 5th, or is he? Because there is James Pepper. Through the chicane they will go, and James Pepper a little look to the inside, can't quite force that door open this time, in towards Clark Curve, very late on the brakes, a big look up the inside. It was a half look, didn't feel fully committed there from James Pepper, and all that's done is cost him time as we go through Railway Bend and then right the way towards Taylor's. On the brakes goes James Pepper, and you can see that small mistake, just not quite confident enough going into that move. That's cost him so much time. Clark not necessarily the most sort of conventional overtaking opportunity, but he gave it a go. He knows it doesn't work now, so we might see some other tactics being deployed from James Pepper over the next coming laps. In towards Duffer's Dip, on the brakes, much quicker through there is James Pepper. Later on the brakes, carries that momentum and definitely makes that minimum speed slightly higher compared to Jordan Taylor. Then through Butchers, over the crest they go, absolutely nose to tail. James Pepper just dips a toe in the gravel. That costs him even more time. So as soon as he gets within sort of touching distance of Jordan Taylor. It just cost him a little bit of time with a small mistake. Harry Dios and Harley Connolly sideways and side by side through Clark Curve. Harley Connolly sort of banging and rubbing and muscling his way up the inside of Harry Dios to make that 7th place. Harry Dios, that cost him a little bit of time going on to that long straight here at Knockhill, meaning that he's going to be on the back foot again to try and fight back and remain in that draft range, which I think he just about is in that second margin. However, that is coming out slightly this time as Harley Connolly gets a good run on the exit of the final corner, still with Luke Sintler with the fastest lap of the race, a 56.443. Kyle Felbus with his personal fastest lap last time through with a 56.508, presumably in response to Luke Sintler's previous fastest lap of the race, but on average, Kyle Felbus, I'd say he's slowly starting to pull away. 1.1 seconds now with the first quarter of race 1 already gone. James Pepper back within touching distance. A small mistake, which was very close to becoming a slightly bigger mistake. Very sideways. Somehow managed to get the car pointing the right way. But once again, all that time he's just gained, he's got to put in all the work again to try and fight with Jordan Taylor. Whilst all that is going on, Stanley Donaldson is slowly falling into the clutches of the pair of them. Out of the final corner they go, onto the start-finish straight. And Luke Sintler this time with the fastest lap of the race, a 56.280. I think that was due to the fastest overall Sector 2 set so far. That lead gap still floating around about 1.2 seconds, so it was a quick lap, but not enough and not consistently enough, I fear, for Luke Sintler, because Kyle Felbus continuing to pull away Jordan Taylor. He's the meat in the sandwich at the moment. He wants to get past Stanley Donaldson and put that crucial car between himself and the charging James Pepper. However, just dipping a wheel onto the grass, didn't quite make the gravel, so he's not lost too much time. But James Pepper is definitely getting closer. This time through Clark Curve, decides just to sit behind and sit patient. The aerodynamic assistance should slowly start to play into his hands. Down towards the hairpin we go at the final corner. Is James Pepper going to go slightly... he's going to be slightly more patient into the hairpin that time. He was on the exit of the hairpin. Jordan Taylor pulls away once again, unfortunately. James Pepper just doesn't quite have enough to throw at this evening. However, we've still got the reverse grid race number 2 on the way. Through turn 1, again, James Pepper so much more committed. A bit too much commitment that time. Bounced over the curb. And do we see him pointing the right way, or do we see him in the grass? We did see him in the grass on the exit of the second corner, so it's not cost him as much as I thought it would. Bouncing over the curbs through the chicane, Jordan Taylor dips a wheel onto the gravel. This is going to give James Pepper the opportunity he needs. Is he going to try and hang it all the way around the outside of Clark Curve? He's got to keep it off the gravel. He just nips over the curb. They're going to be absolutely side by side on the exit as they once again break the beam through Sector 2. James Pepper is classed as in front in 5th place. Jordan Taylor in 6th. However, Jordan is on the inside for the final corner. Later on the brakes, down through the gears they both go. All the way around the outside goes James Pepper once again. He should get the superior momentum, but again, Jordan Taylor just starving him for room on the exit. But I think Jordan Taylor doesn't quite have enough to fight back to James Pepper. A flash of the lights there from Jordan Taylor, just trying to take his eyes off his braking point. James Pepper through turn 1, hanging on for grip is Jordan Taylor in towards turn 2. James Pepper does manage to remain in front, and I think that half look from Jordan Taylor has cost him a little bit of time. Over the chicane they will go once again. Whilst all that has been going on, Stanley Donaldson has again extended that margin as he was slowly, as I say, getting closer and closer to those two behind, James Pepper and Jordan Taylor. Through Clark Curve they go onto the back straight. It seems fairly even between the pair of them. Will we see Jordan Taylor again start to reel in James Pepper? We've just got to wait and see what the drivers do in terms of managing the final 11 minutes of the race. As we said earlier on, if you are looking to get on the grid, please do get in touch. Head over to the website. We will be able to find you a spot on the grid, and for only £10 per round, for the amount of action that you've already seen in the first half of the first race, it really is worth your money. What has happened to Dalton Hayward? He's a little bit further back. There he is. He's still fighting away with Harry Dios into turn 1, down Duffer's Dip. Is he going to have a little look? Massively closes up on the brakes. Of course, we saw him come to strife earlier on as he just nudged the tyre bale through the chicane. This time, hopefully no such dramas. No, a much cleaner run through the chicane. Is he going to have a little look up the inside up towards Clark Curve. Yes, he will. He's got that overlap that he wants on the brakes, down a gear, and in front of Harry Dios on the exit. So Harry Dios down into 9th place, Dalton Hayward up into 8th. A good recovery drive from Dalton Hayward so far. Nathan Snaith has slowly been edging closer to this little duo as well. Thomas Potter not so much luck. Harry Dios on the inside, later on the brakes. But I think Dalton Hayward will just about get that momentum on the exit. Yes, he does. But will Harry Dios fight back? We saw this earlier on whilst we were riding on board with Harry Dios in exactly the same situation. Over the line, they will go in towards turn 1, still absolutely side by side. Harry Dios still on the inside through Duffer's Dip. A bit of contact between the pair of them. Dalton Hayward forced to take to the escape road through sector 2 or through turn 2. They narrowly avoid contact once again. Harry Dios back in front, up into 8th place. Dalton Hayward, he's still trying to make it work all the way around the outside. 2 into 1 doesn't go through the chicane. Oh yes, it does. Harry Dios again just about edges in front. Nathan Snaith has got much closer amongst this little battle. Up the inside goes Dalton Hayward through Clark Curve once again. However, this is now a 3-horse race for the final couple of spots in that top 10. So this is the fight for 8th place. Maybe Nathan Snaith will take Dalton Hayward's attention away from Harry Dios and allow him just to run away up the road, lifting off the throttle, just buying himself, I think, some braking room in towards the final corner. For exactly that reason, Dalton Hayward, a slight mistake on the apex. A big sort of bit of oversteer. It gets all collected up by Dalton Hayward. Nathan Snaith, he's got to decide left or right. He decides the back of Dalton Hayward's car just to try and push him forward. Lots and lots of bump drafting we saw at Donington Park. We may see ever more here at Knockhill. 2 cars trying to work as a pair and catch the cars up the road. A safety flick of brakes there, I think, from Dalton Hayward, just in an attempt to get that car squared away by the time we got to the second part of Duffer's Dip. Over the chicane we go once again. Just a dab of the brakes from Dalton Hayward to load up that front axle and get the nose onto the floor once again and build some stability into that car. But since Nathan Snaith has fallen away, you can see Dalton Hayward back on the attack, trying to catch up to Harry Dios, who has a big old moment through Clark Curve. Tail end of the car struggling to, I think, remain in check for Harry Dios. All of this battling has dropped them 12 seconds away from Harley Connolly up the road. These are by far and away the closest cars we've got on the circuit at the moment. Dalton Hayward massively closed up that time through the final corner. You can see just how much Nathan Snaith has fallen away, and you can see just how much Dalton Hayward has closed onto the tail end of Harry Dios. Fastest lap still going the way of Kyle Felvis with a 56.186. In towards Duffer's Dip. Much quicker is Dalton Hayward. Meets both the apexes. He's left with nowhere to go, but Harry Dios wants to take the normal line. That allows Dalton Hayward to edge his way up the inside. He nips the curb, and that puts Harry Dios in the gravel. He loses out to Dalton Hayward. He loses out to Nathan Snaith. So Dalton slightly overeager on the apex curbing. That put him in the air, and he was pretty much a passenger into the side of Harry Dios's car, if you will pardon the pun. James Pepper still sat there in 5th place, and the gap last time we saw 2.5 seconds to Stanley Donaldson. This time it is much less than that, 3/4 of a second. Stanley Donaldson, again, the tail end of the car just stepping away on the entry into Duffer's Dip, the exit of Duffer's Dip. So too the second corner as well, really struggling with rear grip, I think now, is Stanley Donaldson. James Pepper definitely getting closer, much quicker through the chicane. Is he going to have a look up the inside? Yes, he is. He's got that overlap, which I think you need in towards Clark Curve. On the brakes, down a gear, up the inside goes James Pepper. He nibbles the curb. That just slightly washes him wide. That gives Stanley Donaldson the opening he needs to try and fight back. It will be the outside for the final corner that Stanley Donaldson is going to try and make work. We've seen it work before. We've seen it not work before as well. So I guess it's all down to what you do on the brakes. He was much later on the brakes, but I think gave James Pepper a little bit too much room, better than none at all, which means that momentum that he wanted to gain, he lost on the way in, and he couldn't maximise on the way out. Back towards the start-finish line we go once again. 6.5 minutes of the race remaining. James Pepper up into 4th place. Stanley Donaldson down to 5th, and I think that was a matter of when and not if, because James Pepper showcasing some brilliant pace in the latter stages of race number 1. Kyle Felbus, the lead, is all the way out to 3 seconds now, so he's just been chipping in those quick, clean and consistent laps that you need to win a race in the PASR MX-5 Cup. There is Kyle Felbus in towards Taylor's once again, on the brakes, down a couple of gears. There's 2 different lines. You can take an early apex and allow the car to wash wide up the hill, which I think the camber almost pulls you into the corner a bit more. Or you can go for that late apex and sort of slightly deeper on the brakes, but you can get that momentum on the exit. I guess it's all down to driving style and how you feel the car will react to it. In towards Duffer's Dip goes Kyle Felvis. not using the sausage curbs, being very, very cautious just to use the painted white and blue curbing, which is working for him. You can see just how settled that car is. It's very, very quick as well. The body language of that car just shows that Kyle Felvis is being conservative, but very, very precise indeed. Up towards Clark Curve he will go as we tick ever closer to the final 5 minutes of this race. The tail end of the car almost driving Kyle Felvis into Clark Curve. Through Railway Bend we go, and then towards Taylor's. Kyle Felvis has already showcased what he can do at round number 1 at Donington Park. Of course, he finished second in race number 1 and finished fourth, pardon me, in race 2. So again, just those consistent point scoring positions means that he is doing very well in regards to his championship aspirations, and he's already kicking off the Knockhill round of the championship in exactly the manner he would want to. He's finished, like I say, on the podium once already this season. He'll be looking for another podium finish. If he can be on the top step of said podium, that will taste all the sweeter. Thomas Potter, he's slowly chipping closer to Harry Dios. I don't know whether that is due to, obviously, Harry Dios's shortcomings earlier on into the gravel trap. And we've had a bit of a swap around, I think, further up. James Pepper is fighting away with Kieran Roberts, or he was. Kieran Roberts, some sort of mistake through the first sector means that he drops right the way down to 4th place. James Pepper up into the podium places. We saw him at the very tail end of the order due to a poor start. However, what a recovery drive from James Pepper so far, up into 3rd place. 9 seconds between himself and Luke Sintler, so I think 3rd he will have to settle for. But Kieran Roberts, an uncharacteristic mistake from him. Now in 4th place, still a good point scoring position. We will run through how you score the points in a little while between race number 1 and race number 2. But that's not what Kieran wanted, demoting him down to 4th. But as such, that means he will only score, 4 less points than Kyle Felvis will if he wins the race. So Stanley Donaldson sat there in 5th. I don't think he will be able to get within touching distance of Kieran Roberts with so little time left in this race. But one mistake can lead to more. It can slightly throw you out of your rhythm. Kieran Roberts seems much cleaner through turns 2 and 3 that time. Who knows, there was no contact, so it was all of his own doing, and almost another big old moment there for Kieran Roberts. Through the chicane he went, just dipped the outside rear wheel, which of course is the loaded wheel, in towards the chicane, and that meant that he lost the tail end of the car. And just as I say it, Stanley Donaldson is almost within a second of Kieran Roberts with 3 minutes of the race remaining. Kyle Felvis is still out in front, 4 seconds clear of Luke Sintler, and now having to deal with a little bit of lapped traffic, that being Thomas Potter, who has dropped away this time from Harry Dios. So I fear maybe another small mistake from Thomas Potter. We saw them, a couple of seconds apart. It's now up to 12 seconds, so Thomas Potter's lost a lot of time somewhere out on circuit. Kyle Felvis, something he might not have had to deal with too much at Donington Park. We definitely will have to this evening at Knockhill. All it takes is a few back markers to have some mistakes, and you've then got to not only try and maintain that lead, but also negotiate lap traffic whilst doing so. So down the straight we go, and then in towards the final corner at Taylor's. Kyle Felvis now 4.5 seconds clear, and continuing to lap very quickly indeed. Last time through a 56.6 compared to Luke Sintler's 56.5. So at the moment, those two are the only two lapping in the 56s. So there's potentially still more time on the table. James Pepper, this should be a good motivator for him heading into race number 2. Race 1 hasn't massively gone his way, but that comeback drive is definitely something to be proud of. Kyle Felvis, when he broke the beam, I think that will be 3 laps remaining, including the one that he is on. James Pepper into Duffer's Dip, bounces over the curbs. You can see some drivers just maybe more comfortable taking a bit more curb. I can't remember exactly who it was that we spoke to. It was potentially Jordan Taylor, just off the back of his win at race number 2 at Donington Park, asking how he's going to negotiate those curbs out Knockhill, and he said it's all down to the driver and how they feel the car will react. We see Kyle Felvis being very, very precise, just using the curbing he knows he can get away with. James Pepper slightly more aggressive in terms of his curb usage, and isn't really afraid of just nibbling at those red sausage curbs. Into the final corner we go. You can see the nose of the car dive into the grounds as he jumps on the brakes. Through the final corner he goes onto what will be the penultimate lap of the race. Kyle Felvis has, I think, dealt with a little bit more lap traffic. No, he's still Thomas Potter separating himself and Luke Sintler. He does have Harry Dios up the road, but I don't think there's enough time left in the race for that to affect proceedings. But James Pepper through Duffers Dip, again very controlled, this time a little bit less curb so far. Harry Dios in an attempt to, I think, try and open up turn 1 at Duffers Dip, just nibbled at the pit wall, so something maybe that we didn't really take into account that could play a part in this race. But just in an attempt, like I say, to open up that line into turn 1, he managed to clip the tyre wall. Hopefully that hasn't brought about any sort of damage. He's still lapping fairly consistently as well. Kyle Felvers will be going on to the final lap of the race this time. So breaks the beam with 5 seconds to go in towards Duffers Dip for the final time in race number 1. Kyle Felvers, what a race it has been. Lights to flag so far. Got a good start. Fought off any sort of attack from Luke Sintler early on, and then focused on building that margin, which is still now floating around about 4.5 seconds. Over the chicane once again, so precise and just being cautious of those curbs, keeping it within those white lines. Up towards Clark Curve for the final time in race 1 goes Kyle Felvers for HFT Racing, and exactly how he would want to start his racing this evening at Knockhill. He can score some big points there in first place, 30 points for a win, 29 for second, 28 for third, so on and so forth. So through the final corner, for the final time in race number 1, comes Kyle Felvers in the number 1 machine. Towards the line he will go, the checkered flag being readied, already flashing his lights. So Kyle Felvers will win race number 1 in the PASR MX-5 Cup at Knockhill. And with that, score max points with pole position, a race win, and fastest lap so far, unless anybody can beat it, which somebody has. James Pepper has beaten it with a 56.142. So Luke Sintler crossed the line in second place. James Pepper crossed the line in third, but with fastest lap of the race, so will score second place points. Kieran Roberts crosses the line to finish fourth. Stanley Donaldson in fifth. Jordan Taylor in sixth. There goes Harley Connolly to finish in seventh place. Thomas Potter, of course, finishing a lap down in 11th place. And we await the arrival of Dalton Haywood. You can see his sort of day-glow green and yellow car coming through the final corner, past pit entry, and towards a checkered flag to finish in 8th place. Nathan Snaith and Harry Dios not far away from finishing either. Towards the line come the pair of them. Nathan Snaith weaving over the line to finish in 9th place, and Harry Dios will round out your top 10 finishes here at Knockhill. So a good race number 1 all round, I would say. Slightly action-packed at the start. It tidied itself up. For me, James Pepper, what a comeback drive that was from him, managing to finish in 3rd place. Bearing in mind we saw him down in 11th place after a brief trip in towards the gravel trap. Into the pit lane comes everybody, and we will very shortly be able to grab a word with our podium finishes. But what a drive from Kyle Felvers in race number 1. Lights to flag victory. He held fastest lap of the race for 99% of the race, but James Pepper just pipping him at the post at the very tail end of the race. Luke Sintler finishing in P2, a good result from him. But Kyle Felvers, you're in the commentary box with us once again. Pole position converted into a race win. It was lights to flag victory. You can't really hope for much more than that.
No, definitely. It was a good race. I think just staying smooth, like I said, and that's what won me the race.
And we've seen some varied lines around Knockhill, whether that be just using sort of the blue and white curbing, and some drivers being slightly more confident using the red curbing. Is that something you maybe take into account, sort of red curbing when you're being aggressive and building that gap, and then just focusing on keeping it clean and consistent?
Yeah, definitely. I think in qualifying I was taking a lot more curb than I am in the race. I think just trying to be consistent, not make any mistakes, not dip into the gravel, and I think that's definitely helping with the consistency, and that's what won the race.
And of course, race 2 on the way. You'll be starting at the very tail end of the order. Naturally, sort of the mindset will change, but end result has surely got to be the same thing. Carve your way through the order and then work your way onto the podium.
Yeah, definitely. I think start of the race is just sort of sit back, watch the show, and then try and pick it off from there.
Great stuff. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how that all plays out. Congratulations on race number 1 and getting to the top step of the podium, and hopefully we can speak to you at the end of race number 2.
Cheers, Jack.
We do also have Luke Sintler in the commentary box. Luke, at the start of the race, you were within touching distance of Kyle. Did something change, or were you sort of just sat trying to keep the car on the road and thinking, right, second place, good haul of points, let's go from there?
Yeah, I think Kyle definitely has a bit of an edge on me, pace-wise, and I also made a few mistakes during the race, which was slightly disappointing. So I'm hoping in race 2 I can maybe keep up with him slightly better than what I did in race 1, but altogether I don't think it was a bad race from my perspective. I think I managed to stay in second and complete the race, which is what I really wanted to do. So yeah.
Great stuff. Well, a good haul of points, and of course you get your hands on what £5 cash for finishing on the podium, so that's always got to be a good thing. Maybe more here than anywhere else. We saw it a little bit at Donington Park, but I'm guessing we'll see it a lot more at Knockhill this evening, with it being a shorter lap and that just being the nature of the circuit. Traffic, especially in race number 2, is that something you sort of take as it comes, or do you do sort of certain things to maybe train yourself to get around some slightly slower traffic?
Yeah, I think the first half of the race, before it settles down, I'm going to have to be quite cautious going through the pack. And then in that second half of the race, I'm just going to try and make up as many positions as I can, see where I can finish.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing how you convert the back row of the grid and a good result in race 1 to hopefully a good result in race 2. So thank you for joining us, Luke, and hopefully we can chat to you at the end of race number 2. James Pepper, in the commentary box, you managed to start on the front row of the grid. Whether it was contact or whether it was a few small mistakes, I'm not sure. We saw you right the way down in 11th place. However, what a comeback drive to finish on the podium and finish P3. You've got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, mega. As you say, some bits of contact at the start, but when the race just fell apart, you just look for people's mistakes, and when you're hunting for the mistakes, it just sort of. I tried to build the race as much as possible, got the fastest lap, which really happy with. I think only a few thousandths faster than Kyle, so that's quite good for what it is.
And talk us through a lap at Knockhill, because obviously you don't really get much time to breathe and much time sort of, you don't get a rest, put it that way, around Knockhill, with all the elevation change, the curbing, the blind corners, the cambered corners. So yeah, talk us what a quick lap looks like around Knockhill.
Well, for me, ideally I take a little bit of the first sausage curb and it just sort of bounces me over the second part of the curb. I'll probably get a few track limits for that. However, going into turn 2, then it's down to third. Second's a bit much, especially on the engine and gearbox. And then following through up the hill, it's cost difficult trying to get through without hitting the bale. And yeah, the rest of the lap's fairly safe. It's not as daunting until the last corner. You just have to get a decent run up the hill.
I've got to say as well, just one final quick question. Overtaking opportunities, they seem fairly open at Knockhill, but one slightly unconventional one we saw you try and make work a number of times as well, heading into Clark. So once you've gone over the chicane, you've got that quick burst up towards, again, the blind right-hander that leads you onto that back straight. It's not necessarily, I think we said it at the time, the most conventional overtaking opportunity, but is it all about getting that overlap on the inside, and that pretty much makes that corner yours and hopefully the position too?
Yeah, it's as you say, just about getting the overspeed and just the overlap in general to try push and make as much of what you've got as you can. Really, it's a difficult one to overtake at and sketchy at that.
Well, great stuff. We'll be giving you full support in race number 2 and seeing how you can finish. And by the sounds of it, your cat in the background is doing so also. So great to have a chat with you, and hopefully we can talk to you again at the end of race number 2.
Cheers.
Brilliant. Cheers, James. So the grid has already formed. So it is, of course, a full reverse grid from race number 2, as every driver that started race 1 has finished race 1. So the reverse grid is as follows. On the front row of the grid, we've got Thomas Potter with Harry Dios alongside. Then we get back to Nathan Snaith and Dalton Haywood. Harley Connolly lines up alongside Jordan Taylor, and Stanley Donaldson and Kieran Roberts line up thereafter. On the final full row of the grid, we have James Pepper and Luke Sintler. And on his own, on the very tail end of the order, we've got Kyle Felbus. So the lights are being readied. We wait for the 6 lights to go red, which they are doing so now. So race number 2 here at Knockhill for the PASR MX-5 Cup is go. Who gets the best start off the front row? It's a good start from Thomas Potter. Harry Dios got a little bit more wheel spin than I think he bargained for. That means that he will slowly start to drop back. Yes, he does already. Looking up the inside is Harley Connolly. So he's managed to carve his way up into 3rd place so far. Whereabouts did he finish in race 1? I thought it was a little bit higher up the order. Harley Connolly already trying to make his way up into 2nd place. We've got a car running wide. That's Thomas Potter. So from pole position, he's already dropped away right the way down into 11th place. Such an unfortunate start. Harry Dios is going towards the wall. He managed to keep it out the wall, I think, but with a big bit of oversteer on the exit of the chicane, that drops him right the way down towards the tail end of the order. Jordan Taylor, race 2 winner last week at Donington Park, is looking to make his escape in race number 2 here at Knockhill. Already into the lead of the race. Harley Connolly in 2nd, Nathan Snaith in 3rd, and it's everybody else thereafter. There is Kyle Felbus in 6th place. He's already worked his way through and past James Pepper and Luke Sintler. Up the inside goes Kyle Felbus on Stanley Donaldson. I fear there was contact between James Pepper and I think that could have been Luke Sintler. I think those two came together there, but it's what, 3, almost 4 wide towards the start finish line. We've riding on board with Thomas Potter. We've got Dalton Hayward on our right side. We've got Stanley Donaldson on our left and James Pepper just up the road as well. 2 by 2 in towards Duffer's Dip. They managed to work their way through and go back to line astern. Thomas Potter late on the brakes. We've got a car in the wall. That's Kieran Roberts. So in the gravel trap and in the wall as well, pointing the wrong way. So he's got a lot of driving to do. Thomas Potter forcing Dalton Hayward the long way around on the exit of turn number 2. I fear racing room was just about given. It will be very touch and go. I'm sure that will be looked at later on. There is Luke Sintler in 5th place at the moment. He's still separating his 2 podium pals from race number 1. Kyle Felbus up the road in 4th. Luke Sintler, of course, in 5th. And James Pepper sat there in 6th place. He managed to escape any sort of contact from the cars behind. We've got Harry Dios again coming to more strife on the exit of Clark Curve. It's been a very sort of disappointing start, I'm sure, for Harry Dios. I think he felt there was more in that. Kyle Felbus, he's now fighting away with Nathan Snaith in towards turn 1. Side by side, doesn't quite work. He's now got to go the long way around. Just dips in behind. Is he going to have a look at the inside at turn 3? Yes, he is. Late on the brakes. Manages to get the car slowed down. Up the inside, he goes up into 3rd place already. Nathan Snaith, crucially, stays between Kyle Felbus and Luke Sintler. So that means that Luke has got a lot of driving to do again just to try and carve his way through. Struggling on the oversteer side of things is Nathan Snaith. Harley Connolly, he's had a very poor run through the chicane, which means Kyle Felbus, narrowly avoiding contact with him, works his way up into 2nd place with 2.5 seconds up the road to Jordan Taylor. Harley Connolly, that mistake may have just been brought about by some slight overconfidence through the chicane, dipping a wheel onto the gravel. It's such an easy mistake to make. It's all go in the background. We've still got Luke Sintler, James Pepper, Stanley Donaldson and Nathan Snaith all in on the mix. So this fight is from 7th right the way up to 2nd place at the moment. But Harley Connolly in 3rd, Luke Sintler in 4th. Then it is James Pepper, Stanley Donaldson, the man we're looking at now, giving chase to James Pepper in towards Duffer's Dip. He drops back very slightly there. James Pepper being much more confident on the curbs. A big moment on the brakes. You can see the car squirming away at Stanley Donaldson's affair. Just about managed to get that car slowed down and turned in towards turn number 2. James Pepper making the same mistake. Stanley Donaldson following him through, dipping a wheel onto the gravel. That allows Nathan Snaith to carve his way up the inside of Stanley Donaldson for 6th place. Jordan Taylor's lead has come down from 2.5 seconds down to 2 seconds. Kyle Felbus is getting closer. Harley Connolly in 3rd is still giving chase. Luke Sintler not far away at all in 4th, looking back from James Pepper, who's within a second of all those cars up the road. Still side by side into the final corner. Stanley Donaldson manages to hold on to 8th place. Nathan Snaith is left scrambling around in 7th. Looking forward from James Pepper, you can see Luke Sintler up the road, you can see Harley Connolly, and then in towards turn 1 you can see everybody else in front. Jordan Taylor disappears over the crest into turn 1, followed by Kyle Felbus. We've been saying he's confident on the curbs, that time a little too confident. James Pepper nails the sausage curb on the inside of Duffer's Dip. The car goes skywards, all 4 wheels off the ground, and in towards the gravel trap. He's lost a handful of positions right the way down into 9th place for James Pepper. That's not what he would have wanted at the start of race number 2. We've already only got 15 minutes of the race remaining. Luke Sintler through Clark Curve washes slightly wide of the apex. That means he's lost a bit of time to Harley Connolly on one of the most important parts of the circuit as well, down this back straight where you can really make the most of all of that aerodynamic assistance. Jordan Taylor's lead has come down from 2.5 seconds to 2 seconds to 1 second now. So Kyle Felbus is getting closer. Harley Connolly is only 1.6 seconds back, but I think his attentions have more or less been grasped by Luke Sintler in 4th. With 15 minutes of the race to go, Kyle Felbus is getting closer by lapping consistently quicker than Jordan Taylor at the moment. 4 cents quicker over the line that time was Kyle Felbus. So in towards turn number 3. Kyle Felbus, again, just being so consistent, so clean within those white lines, managing to just chip away at that time. As I say that, he just dipped a wheel over the curb in towards the grass. That cost him a little bit of time through the chicane that time. But looking at the timing screen, or the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen, Jordan Taylor, Kyle Felbus and Harley Connolly, they've all got one thing in common. They all race for HFT Racing. It was mentioned last week there could have potentially been a HFT Racing 1, 2, 3. This week it may happen still. James Pepper, he's trying to work his way through and past Kieran Roberts. He's trying to work his way past Thomas Potter as well, in towards the final corner. James Pepper, he looks to the left, looks to the right, can't find a way through that time. Kieran Roberts, of course, recovering from an earlier incident. Contact between James Pepper and Thomas Potter. That puts Thomas Potter the wrong way through the final corner. James Pepper, he's down into 9th and slowing, so maybe a little bit of damage on that car now as well. But Dalton Hayward and Kieran Roberts will be pretty happy with their end of the bargain. They go up a couple of places, 7th and 8th now, the pair of those two. Luke Sintler sat there in 4th. He's the only man at the moment that I can see denying HFT Racing a 1-2-3. He is still well within touching distance of Harley Connolly. Kyle Felbus has brought that lead gap down now to half a second. He is definitely getting closer to Jordan Taylor with 13 minutes of the race to go. Jordan Taylor has got a very big job to hold on to that lead. Luke Sintler in 4th. He is also getting closer to Harley Connolly. He may have to play rear gunner here for his teammates up the road through the final corner. A quick flick of oversteer, very quickly corrected by Harley Connolly, meaning it doesn't affect him too much on towards the start-finish straight. But the number 58, Racing 58 machine of Luke Sintler over the start-finish line in towards Duffers Dip. What was the gap last time through in terms of lap time? Luke Sintler gained, what, 4.5 tenths over Harley Connolly in 3rd last time through. Kyle Felbus now within 2 tenths of a second. The lead gap absolutely nose to tail as they disappear over the crest in towards the landing area. And Jordan Taylor just dips a wheel onto the gravel. He has to go defensive. Kyle Felbus, he's got to go the long way around, but the position is made already by the time we get to Clark Curve. Kyle Felbus, your new race leader, already half a second clear of Jordan Taylor. One small mistake, that's all it takes. Far less flashing this time from Jordan Taylor. I think obviously he wants to race his teammate, but doesn't want to distract him and take them both off. Kyle Felbus, he won race number 1 from pole position. He started at the very back row of the grid, all on his own in 11th place, did Kyle Felbus. And he's already into the lead, less than half of the way through this race. Harry Dios, unfortunately, has drawn his evening to a close and will be playing no further parts in race number 2 here at Knockhill. Luke Sintler in 4th place is still piling that pressure on Harley Connolly. That battle up the road, it was just a small overtake by Kyle Felbus. He didn't cost either of them too much time, but you can see the pair of them have slowly fallen into the clutches of Harley Connolly and Luke Sintler, who again a bit of a moment over the chicane, gets it all squared away and points the car towards Clark Curve. Dab of the brakes, down a gear, and then over the crest. It's just the margins between some of the drivers are so fine. You've got to do some quite drastic things if you want to gain just a couple of hundredths of a second over the cars you are fighting with. James Pepper this time manages to work his way through and past Dalton Hayward. That is through Clark Curve. So James Pepper now up into 8th place. The comeback drive from race 1, he'll want to copy and paste that into race number 2, but with the gaps at the moment presenting slightly larger than they did for the second time of asking this evening. Dalton Hayward opted for the slightly wider line through Taylor's. It didn't work for him that time, so James Pepper is through and away in 8th. The next target for him is 2 seconds up the road, that being Kieran Roberts. Fastest lap of the race at the moment is going the way of our race leader, our new race leader, Kyle Felbus, with a 56.502. But James Pepper having got in front, you can already see him trying to extend that margin over the car behind. Maybe not the way to do it, very sideways, almost dipping a wheel onto the gravel on the exit of turn number 3. Luke Sintler has drawn himself ever closer to Harley Connolly. They'll be side by side as we go down the back straight towards the final corner at Taylor's. Harley Connolly has dropped into 4th on the timing. It's going to be who gets the best of the run through the final corner. Luke Sintler opts for the wider line. It won't work on the initial exit, but as we get closer towards turn 1 at Duffers Dip, you can see him drawing ever closer with the superior momentum. He fired the car onto the start-finish straight. The aerodynamic assistance, everything is playing into the hands of Luke Sintler. A little look to the inside. He's decided maybe this time isn't the time to go for that move through Duffers Dip before you're hard on the brakes and flick the car right in towards McIntyre's. Then it's through the right at Butcher's, which almost sets the car up over the chicane. Avoid the tyre bail, as we've already seen a few drivers fall foul to. Just a dip onto the gravel for Harley Connolly. That doesn't cost him too much time. So it's, again, just so close between these two. This time will Luke Sintler go to the outside. He gives it a go. He forces his way to the inside. That will be the inside line towards Taylor's. A bit of bouncing between the pair of them. They're still side by side. Luke Sintler on the brakes, down a couple of gears. And Luke Sintler up into 3rd place at the apex and then fired off the corner by Harley Connolly. That will hurt Harley. It will massively benefit Luke. And Luke Sintler up into those podium places. Harley Connolly left without too much to do in the way of fighting back initially. We've still got 9 minutes of the race to go. So we may see Harley Connolly try and fight back, unlock a little bit more pace in the final half of this race, keeping it nice and easy through the curbs. He washes wide, the car scrambles over the surface, struggling for grip on the absolute edge of adhesion, but that's just cost him a bit more time, and that gap has already gone up to 3/4 of a second. Lap traffic playing a part there. That was Thomas Potter. The pair of them run wide. Luke Sintler manages to dig his way out of the gravel. Harley Connolly spends a little bit while longer in the sandpit, and that cost him ever more time. That gap has gone from 3/4 of a second up to 2.5 seconds now, potentially 2 3/4, as they both navigate traffic. Kyle Felbus's lead up to 3 seconds. Dalton Hayward, what has happened here? Through the chicane he went, and then straight into the gravel trap. So I'm assuming either contact with the tyre bale like we saw in race number 1, or the car landed at a funny angle. It was unbalanced, and it meant that he found himself in the gravel trap. Back to this battle. We said that James Pepper needs a comeback drive, and that's what he's going for. He took the wide line into the final corner. He then took the wide line on the exit. He dived to the inside. Some interesting defending from Kieran Roberts. He went left, he went right, he went left, he went right, which you're not really allowed to do. Lots of weaving there from Kieran in an all-out attempt to try and keep James Pepper behind. Just in one back in towards Duffer's Dip, and sort of shows his disapproval of that defending. They remain 7th and 8th at the moment. I'm sure James Pepper will be trying to follow in his title sponsor's words there. Cool Camel. He'll just try and keep a cool head and not force any sort of undue move. Again, Kieran Roberts, a very late move to defend. Is he going to leave him enough room on the exit? Absolutely not, and washes him into the gravel. So James Pepper, he's just got to keep a cool head here. He's got that outright pace that we've already seen so far. With 7.5 minutes to go, he will want to get through and past Kieran Roberts as quickly, but also as safely as possible, and then reassert his attentions on towards Nathan Snaith. Dalton Hayward has gone into the pit lane and into retirement, unfortunately, as well. So race 2 is slowly becoming a race of attrition. James Pepper not quite as close as he was the lap prior, coming out of the final corner towards the start-finish line. But Kyle Felbus's lead gap further extending up to now 3.5 seconds. So he's just continuing to run away with this, is Kyle Felbus. Jordan Taylor still sat there in second. Luke Sintler 1.2 seconds back. It just takes one small mistake from Jordan, meaning that Luke will fall into the clutches. But James Pepper ever closer. Again, just trying to edge that door open. Will he return the favour this time to Kieran Roberts? Yes, he will. A bit of door-to-door contact, and Kieran Roberts fights the grip around the outside. How he did that, I will never know. But Kieran Roberts remains in 7th place. James Pepper remains in 8th. But this is brilliant racing. I'm sure it will be slightly frowned upon, but there's been a fair bit of trading of paint, and they're still absolutely nose to tail as they come towards the line to tick lap number 14 in the book, going on to lap number 15 now. James Pepper, he's desperate to get by, and desperate, I think, to do it as soon as possible, because he still wants to work his way even closer towards that top 6. Nathan Snaith is only going to be extending the margin here. A big old moment from Kieran Roberts on the brakes. The car's squirming away. He carries a bit too much momentum into the corner. That means he's got to jump extra hard on that brake pedal, killing his momentum again through turn number 3. James Pepper in 8th place. This time doesn't go for the move through Clark. Yes, he does. A very late move from James Pepper. Will he work his way up the inside? Yes, he does initially. Back up to the front, we've got Luke Sintler in 2nd place now. I'm sorry, Jordan. I said it took one small mistake, and I fear that is what has happened there, because Luke Sintler up into 2nd place. Jordan Taylor down into 3rd, but immediately fighting back towards the start-finish line. They go absolutely side by side, breaking the beam together in towards turn 1 at Duffer's Dip. Luke Sintler remains in 2nd place. Jordan Taylor remains in 3rd. Jordan now, he's got to try and get back in that rhythm and work his way up towards 2nd place, or force Luke Sintler into a mistake, which I fear is what happened there. Side by side through the bottom of Shard, up through the hill they go. They have swapped around. Jordan Taylor in 2nd place. Luke Sintler back down to 3rd, but this time they're absolutely nose to tail. If they continue to battle, Harley Connolly is still waiting in the wings in 4th and drawing himself ever closer. James Pepper still trying to fight his way through and past Kieran Roberts. You can see them chopping and changing on the timing screen. But James Pepper, looking at the gap, this time has made it stick, and he's 2 seconds clear of Kieran Roberts. Nathan Snaith has had a mistake, and he's dropped down the order into 8th. So James Pepper, by virtue, has worked his way into 6th place now. So that has all changed further back. James Pepper in 6th, Kieran Roberts in 7th, Nathan Snaith, unfortunately, down in 8th, and Thomas Potter still doing a brilliant job in 9th place, dealing with traffic very, very efficiently as well. Luke Sintler in 3rd, a bit of a rumble over the curbs. That slightly unsettles the car, points the car towards McIntyre's and gets it turned in. maybe killing a bit of momentum there on the apex. You can see Jordan Taylor trying to take a slightly more flowing line. Luke Sindler squares the corner off, which works for some, doesn't work for others. A massive moment for Jordan Taylor. How he's got that car pointing the right direction again is beyond me. He was 90 degrees to the direction of travel, manages to, with armfuls of opposite lock, get that moment squared away, immediately trying to distract Luke Sindler and minimise his escape aspirations. Kyle Felvis's lead has gone from the last time we looked at 3.5 seconds right the way up to 8th with everything that's going on behind. So Luke Sindler in second place, now half a second clear of Jordan Taylor. He will be back on the attack. All of that, as I say, Harley Connolly now within a second of Jordan Taylor, so he is getting closer. He will be trying to get on the podium whilst he may be teammates with Jordan Taylor. There are still championship points and championship prizes and podium prizes up for grabs indeed. Stanley Donaldson in 5th, I think he's just out of any sort of attacking range from James Pepper between now and the end of the race. There is Stanley Donaldson in towards Duffer's Dip, having a fairly quiet race in race number 2. Through turn number 3 he will go, followed then by James Pepper down through Duffer's Dip, and then he flicks the car in towards turn 3. He's lapping very quickly, very consistently, and you can just tell the way that car is moving and the way it is acting. He is on the absolute edge in desperation to make up time for those previous mistakes. But at the moment, the battle we really need to be watching is for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Looking forward from Harley Connolly, you can see those 2 cars up the road. He's definitely reeled them in. 9 tenths was the gap last time over the line, 6 tenths the gap this time. So 3 tenths gained on the lap prior from Harley Connolly. Yet more flashing of the lights from Jordan Taylor. He's desperate to, I think, be the thorn in the side of Luke Sindler on the closing stages of this race. 2.5 minutes remaining. In towards Duffer's Dip we go. Luke Sindler, since he got through, he's really started just to edge that margin ever further and secure that 2nd place. Harley Connolly slightly deep into turn number 3. The car was desperately trying to stop. He did manage to keep it on the road, bouncing over the curb. No such dramas this time for Jordan Taylor. Harley Connolly, unfortunately, the left-hand side of the car dips into the gravel, and that kills his momentum not only through that little section of circuit, but of course that will lower his minimum speed through Clark Curve, and then all the way down this straight. So one small mistake can cost you so dear. We saw it 6 tenths at the line, 1.8 seconds the gap now between Harley Connolly and Jordan Taylor. So Jordan has got no reason really to keep an eye on that mirror between now and the next sort of 2 minutes of the race towards the checkered flag. Kyle Felvis continuing to pull away in the lead of the race, 8.4 seconds back. Jordan Taylor in 3rd. He's got all the work to do, but just look at Kyle Felvis, so clean and consistent. We said it in race 1. We spoke to him at the end of race 1, and he said he can be slightly aggressive in qualifying. In race conditions, he's just keeping it clean, keeping it consistent, and keeping it on the road, and that is the key to getting some good results here in the Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing MX-5 Cup. And Kyle Felvis, he's got the knack of it here. We may see the first back-to-back win, the first double win in an evening in the MX-5 Cup. Of course, last week at Donington Park, we did see Nathan Williams win race number 1 and Jordan Taylor win race number 2. But Kyle Felvis, of course, we do have some absent drivers, as we say earlier, due to holidays and sort of other motorsport commitments, or the real-life motorsport commitments. Sort of the Academy of Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing is just sort of motivating and promoting drivers into the ever larger industry of motorsport. We've got a lot of drivers entering scholarships as well, and we've already given away a number of scholarship entries here at PASR, so it's great to see they are being put to good use as well. There is Jordan Taylor in towards turn number 3, 30 seconds on the clock. Touch and go with the car. Felvis will fit another lap in. I think he just might. But over the chicane goes Jordan Taylor, and I don't think he will have enough. 2.4 seconds, almost 5 seconds to Luke Sindler. It will take quite the substantial mistake from Luke. 7.5 seconds up the road to Kyle Felvis. I think he has just lifted off, and he wants to get that car home to the checkered flag. It will be the final lap of the race. Kyle Felvis out of the final corner towards the checkered flag. Race number 1 win. Pole position in race number 1. What a brilliant night it has been for him. Flash of the lights over the line. The first double winner in the PASR MX-5 Cup. So 2 wins for Kyle Felvis from 2 here at Knockhill. Luke Sindler brings home 2nd place, a very hard fought 2nd place for him. Jordan Taylor rounds out the podium in 3rd. Harley Connolly crosses the line in 4th. Then it is the wait for Stanley Donaldson, who I'm sure was just waiting for that race to be over. Fairly quiet from him. He will have seen James Pepper getting closer. James Pepper finishes in 6th place. Kieran Roberts crosses the line, rather battered and bruised, in 7th. And then Nathan Snaith coming through the final corner now. He will finish in 8th place, and then we await the arrival of Thomas Potter, who's just going down the back straight now and will shortly arrive in the back of shot heading into the final corner. But over the line here comes Nathan Snaith with a flash of the lights, and then there is Thomas Potter through the final corner. He will come from pole position, got caught out early on, small mistake, I think maybe a bit of contact, but brilliant to see. He has come to the line, takes the checkered flag, and a good haul of points as well. Unfortunately, Dalton Hayward and Harry Dios put their cars into retirement throughout that race at various points. But what an advert that has been for the series this evening. It's shown that even when we haven't got the largest of grids that we've seen so far, it can still produce some absolutely brilliant racing, and we will be able to get the opportunity to chat to our top 3 as well. We've already got him in here. Kyle, we spoke to you at the end of qualifying, we spoke to you at the end of race 1 and the end of race 2, and I'm sure you're pretty bored of me asking you questions now, but you know what, let's go with it. You were on your own on row number 6. You said you're going to take it easy off the start. You said you're going to watch the show. It happened, and you've just been the first double winner in the PASR MX-5 Cup. How do you feel?
Yeah, definitely. It was good. Race start, just took it easy, like I said. Watched mistakes happen from other drivers and just found the gap and went through it, and then suddenly ended up at the front of the field. So definitely a good result.
And a massive haul of points as well. Of course, there is still the opportunity for drop races. You don't necessarily drop the entire round, just the race, as long as it is before Brands Hatch. You've bagged yourself, like I say, what, 62, 63 points tonight provisionally. So that's a massive jump up the championship, bearing in mind you were in the joint lead coming into Knockhill. And with the absent Nathan Williams, absent Leo Bell, you've pretty much done yourself a massive favour in regards to championship points. In terms of the plan for the rest of the season, 4 races, 2 rounds down and ever more to go, is the plan again just to nice and aggressive in qualifying, get yourself in a good position for race 1, and race 2 will be what it will be?
Yeah, definitely. I think exactly the same as tonight. Just try and get as far up in quali, do the same in race 1, get as far up as I can, and then see what happens in race 2, and that way we'll just score consistent points.
Well, it really worked for you this evening. So, Kyle, a massive congratulations for not only pole position, not only race 1 win, but also race 2 win. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
Harley and Jordan, my teammates, I think they did really well tonight. I think they didn't really like the track and car combo, so definitely a big shout out to them. They drove well, helped me out as well, and then all my family who are watching and supporting.
Great stuff. Cheers, Kyle. Great to have a chat to you, and we'll see you in a week's time.
Cheers, Jack.
So we also have Luke Sintler in the commentary box. Luke, you spent a bit of that race in 4th place and closing up on Harley Connolly. We then saw you closing up on Jordan. I'm not sure whether it was a small mistake from Jordan or what, but you then had to really fight for 3rd, and you found yourself in what, 2nd place come the end of the race. Is that necessarily something you saw coming, or did it all just sort of fall at your feet in the final half?
Well, yeah, starting from the back, I wasn't quite expecting to come through to the front that well, and when I was in 4th, you know, I saw I was catching the 2 in front. I just had to keep sort of minimalizing mistakes, and I was able to catch him up and overtake, which was good for me.
Yeah, it seemed like you managed to really pull that car together towards the latter stages of the race. We go to Croft next week. Is that a circuit you like, a circuit you don't? Necessarily one that you're just going to go out and see where it goes? Sort of what are the confidence levels going into that one?
Yeah, that's a circuit I'm really looking forward to, actually, and I think a lot of other drivers on the grid are looking forward to that race as well, so yeah, I've got high hopes for Croft as well.
Great stuff. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you there. Congratulations on a double podium here at Knockhill. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, I'd of course like to thank my dad who helps me to race, and also PASR for putting on the championship. It's been very good so far, so thank you.
Brilliant stuff. Cheers, Luke. Great to see you back out on track this evening, and we'll see you in a week's time.
Thank you.
And 3rd, but not final, Jordan Taylor. Great to have you in the commentary box. Race 2 seemed fairly busy from you. Race 1 rather under the radar, but a good sort of consistent haul of points throughout this evening. Now Knockhill is sort of been and gone. What were the views going into Knockhill? Because obviously it's quite a tricky circuit, very complex, and very little time to rest.
Well, I didn't have high hopes, to be honest. I don't think I'd get a podium at all tonight. I did half an hour's practice before the race because I've been working all week. So with no practice, couldn't practice race runs or anything. So I didn't know what was right, what was wrong. So it was a bit of a disadvantage from my half. But some would say if I was a good driver, I could come over that. But I'm happy to come away with a podium at least, considering I had much less practice than some of the others.
Well, a fabulous performance nonetheless, and you've got a lot to be proud of. This evening, again, similar question we asked Luke. Croft in a couple of weeks, or Croft next week, pardon me. Is that a circuit you know well, one you're looking forward to?
Yeah, one of my favourite tracks. The last time we went there in the first Saxo series, I got a double win. I got max points. So hopefully I can do that there. But having Kyle here is a bit of a pain. As much as I love him as a teammate, he is a pain at the same time. So we'll see, because he has a love-hate relationship with that track. Even though he's going there on Saturday for the scholarship, so we'll see how he gets on there as well. But I'm looking forward to it.
Well, fingers crossed, and yeah, we look forward to seeing what you can do at Croft, obviously following a brilliant performance a couple of seasons ago in the Junior Saloon Car Championship E-Series. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to say a quick thank you to?
Just the lads at HFT. I was scrambling for a setup before, and they gave me some guidance. We all drive differently and we all have different things, but just that little bit of guidance gives you a rough idea where to go. Otherwise, that half an hour just before would have been pointless. I would have just been finding the setup. So if it weren't for them, I think I would have been at the back, because I wouldn't have had any time to actually do proper laps. So thanks to them.
Brilliant stuff. Cheers, Jordan, and hopefully we get the opportunity to chat to you next week.
Cheers, Jack.
So the final interview of this evening, and just a few sort of notices as well. Of course, Mick, the man behind everything at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing. Sort of Mick and PASR are at Croft with the Junior Saloon Car Championship on Saturday. Of course, we did give an entry to the Junior Saloon Car Championship scholarship away just a few weeks ago in the Junior Saloon Car Championship official E-Series, and it has really sort of set alight the youth of UK motorsports. We've got drivers from all backgrounds, all places, everything you can think, and we do everything we can, of course, to slingshot their way into what should be a very good and a very fruitful motorsport career. We also have Kyle Felvis. Again, we saw him win twice this evening. He's also going to Croft for the Junior Saloon Car Championship on Saturday. But what a brilliant night it has been from the MX-5 Cup and Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing. Of course, we do bid our best and wish them a massive amount of luck. Anybody that is going to any scholarships or motorsport-related events, whatever, from PASR. In terms of how the next couple of weeks looks, we've of course already now ticked off Donington Park National and Knockhill. We go to Croft next week, a love-hate track for some. Some drivers definitely feel confident, others maybe not so much. We then go to Castle Combe, Alton Park and Brands Hatch GP to round out this season. We hope you have enjoyed your evening with us at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing. I know I have. It's been very, very busy indeed, of course. A massive thank you from myself, Jack Werrell, in the commentary booth, and Tom O'Farrell in the director's seat, bringing to you all the brilliant pictures that you've seen throughout, and Mick behind everything at PASR. So thank you very much for watching. We see you the same time, same place next week at Croft. Bye-bye.